everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Bree. Hi if you're new here, or hey if you've been here before. Today I'm going to be doing a classic staple in BookTube, and that is another book haul. If you've been here for a bit, then you probably know I've only done one other book haul on my channel, and that's mostly because I do accumulate books, but I typically don't accumulate them like a lot in a month. I will gather them over the course of several months, and I think more so what I think I will try to do going forward is have maybe a quarterly book haul update, because I don't accumulate enough to do it monthly. Of course, if I do, like back in December, that was like, I got a bunch of books in the month of December, so I did a specific December book haul, but since then I've gathered a decent amount, but a lot of them are over different kinds of media. I have a few hardcover books I'm going to share today. I have some ebooks that I've got, and I also have some audiobooks that I bought, specifically bought, like they're not rented or on an app. I bought them for myself to keep forever, and I'm going to share what I have in all of these formats and a little bit of how I got them. So back probably in November maybe, I did a video on how to save money when you're getting books, and I'm not going to go through every single process of how I obtain these books. I will link that video down below in a card somewhere for your viewing pleasure, but I will kind of briefly just say where I got them, how I bought them, etc., just so you guys kind of know where I'm obtaining all of these materials, because some of the things I'm going to talk about have been free, and I do want to share a little bit of that. So without further ado, let's just jump into all the books I've acquired from January until May. So in the vein of looking at the physical books that I've got, I have not quite a few. I have about like 7, I think. And we're going to start with Four Dead Queens by Astrid Scholte. So this book is actually an Owl Crate exclusive. There is a bookmark in here, and it is signed by the author. I obtained this through the selling app called Mercari. I sell on there quite frequently, and I don't buy often, but this person who sold me this book had it for a really good deal. It was signed, and I have been interested in it. I just never bought it. As the name implies, I do know that it's like some kind of fantasy where there is 4 queens and they all mysteriously end up dead, and I think they're trying to, I don't know if they're trying to solve who murdered them or like take over the throne or both, but I don't know, it's like that intrigue. And after reading a couple books in this similar vein where there's like dead queens and stuff like that, namely Three Dark Crowns, that series I loved, I figured I'm going to give this a shot. I think it's a standalone. I could be wrong, but I'm excited to give it a shot. And like I said, it's an exclusive cover because it's an Owl Crate exclusive, so I'm just excited to have this copy all over the place. So that's the first book on this list. The next book on the book haul are Ace of Shades and King of Fools by Amanda Foody. I actually won these through an Instagram giveaway. These are also signed by the author, not personalized, but I was extremely excited to haul them because I know Amanda Foody identifies as asexual, and that is something that I don't see very often. And I do believe all of her characters that she's written so far have some asexual identity. I don't know if it's the main character in this book, but I believe there is representation. The only thing I know about this is it's kind of like a fantasy world inspired by Las Vegas, and I think it has something to do with like her mother goes missing or her mother is killed, and she's trying to figure out what happened. So she goes to like this Vegas-inspired fantasy city and employs someone to come help her figure out what happened. That could be completely wrong, but I'm almost pretty sure that's the quirks. But like I said, I won these. I was very excited and very grateful to have done so, and I will probably get to these soon-ish. It just depends on where they fall. The next book I'm going to talk about is a pre-ordered that I got in April, and that is Incendiary by Zoraida Cordova. I absolutely love Zoraida, and I love her writing. The books that I've read so far by her have been wonderful. She wrote the Brooklyn Brujas series, and I also own another book, which is her first series. It's The Vicious Deep, and it's about a merman. So I haven't read that one yet, but so far I've just loved everything that she has wrote, and I already finished this book. I gave it 4 stars. It was a really solid read. It was a good introduction to a fantasy world, and I really love the Spanish Inquisition and that kind of scrutiny that the magic users were under and how that kind of weaved into the story. It took turns that I wasn't expecting, and then at the end of the book it kind of went to where I thought it was actually going to go. So I'm interested. I'm definitely going to continue this series. It was interesting on its own. And like I said, I think the magic is so unique in this. It's sensory based, and it was just a really good time. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I am going to include it in my end of the month wrap up, but I did get this in April, so I needed to include it here. The next book on my book haul is Courting Darkness by Robin LaFevers, or LaFevers. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. This book was not necessarily on my radar until I was in one, a Facebook group, and two, another friend in the same Facebook group messaged me that for some reason this hardcover edition was under $4 on Amazon. I don't know why. I don't know if it was just a promotion or it was just they had too many and they had lowered the price, but I couldn't pass up a hardcover for, I think it was like $3.73, so I got it. No idea what this is about at all. The only thing that I do know is that she wrote the Grave Mercy trilogy, I think. And I know that's a very popular one. So this is, I think, a duology, and this is the first book. The second book, after I bought this one, I looked it up. The second book comes out in June. So it's a relatively newer series, and it's a fantasy. I don't know anything else, and I'm sorry I'm not going to be going into details on this because otherwise I'm going to have to read all of these and it's just not going to be a fun time for me. But if you're interested, go look it up. I don't think it's still this price on Amazon, but if you're interested, you might as well go check it out. I do believe this is young adult, and I will just say, actually, to recap, all the books I've mentioned so far have been young adult. So, all young adult, all high fantasy. There's a theme, right? The next book on the list that I'm going to talk about is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This is the anticipated Hunger Games prequel that follows President Snow before he actually becomes President Snow. I have been anticipating this book. I already did my reread of the Hunger Games in preparation for it, and it's a chunker. But I pre-ordered this because after loving the Hunger Games, I just needed to continue and see where the story was going. I'm currently in the middle of this, and hopefully this will be in my May wrap-up as well, so you can hear my opinions. But I'm actually enjoying it so far, and I've seen some mixed reviews, but I'm still excited, and this I just got in the beginning of the month, so we've had it for a little while, and we're reading it, and we're going to make progress. The last of the physical books that I have to talk about is Becoming Dangerous, Witchy Femmes, Queer Conjurers, and Magical Rebels. This is the weirdest one that I have on this list just because it's like origin of how I obtained it and found out about it. It is random. The only thing, I honestly cannot even remember how this came on my radar, but I do think a couple weeks ago when it was the end of Camp Nano actually, and I did the Y'all Stay Home, the part of Y'all West that was like online webinars and stuff. I believe that I was searching for one of the authors that was mentioned on one of the panels, and I don't think I ended up finding her, but I found someone else, and it led me to this book. I was obviously enticed, one, by the witchcraft, and two, by the queer representation. I believe this is all adult short stories. It's an anthology. I have no idea how I'm going to like this. It's actually, I mean, it's not a big book. It's under 300 pages, but I mean, it's a kind of, it's more there than I thought it was going to be. And I have such a hard time with short stories. I love to write them, but in order to capture my attention, I'm always looking for something, and I can't really explain what it is, but I have a hard time with short stories. I have burned through a couple anthology books that I just never finished. I know I had a book of short horror stories back in college. I tried. I read a couple, and then I started getting really annoyed by the majority of them, so I was really disappointed. I did read, and this was also years ago, probably like 8 years ago at this point, I got a compilation called Love is Strange. That has been my favorite anthology, and I'm hoping it reads maybe somewhat similarly, except The Love is Strange was more paranormal fantasy, and I don't know if these are essays or if they're actually going to be like paranormal-ish, like where they're like a fantasy type of thing. I'm not sure. I haven't read it yet. It's brand new, just came like 2 days ago in the mail, so we'll see. But I hope this will make it into some wrap-up this year, because honestly, the other part that enticed me was this cover which is so beautiful, and I love it. So that's the story. I know it's kind of a weird one. It was an impulse / cover buy. I liked the title, I liked the cover, we bought it, and here we are. All right, so next on my list, I'm just going to talk about the 3 digital e-arcs that I received through Netgalley. So real quick, if you don't know what Netgalley is, it's an online portal where you can kind of request from publishers books that are upcoming. They're only ebooks, so it's like an e-galley is what they call them. And if you're approved, you just automatically send it to your Kindle or your iPad or whatever device that you have, and you can read it for free, and then you have to review it. So it is kind of that catch that if you get an e-arc, you need to review it, or else it'll hurt your chances for getting more down the road. So in that list, I obtained The Glamourist by Luanne G. Smith. This is the sequel to The Vine Witch, which I raved about last year when I read it, and I was really excited to get an e-arc of it because I really wanted to continue. I did start that one. I didn't get too far, but because it's coming out in June, I will hopefully be talking about it within the next month or 2 on my channel to kind of give you guys what my thoughts are on it. I also received The Anti-Virginity Pact by Wismer. I talked about this last month in my April wrap-up. This is a YouTuber book, and she had it for, like, this is her debut novel. She has a poetry book. Now this is her debut contemporary novel, and while I appreciate it a lot, and I think she has a lot of talent, there was just some things that didn't stick for me in the book, and I didn't enjoy it as much as I had hoped I did. But I already read that one, and then the last one on the list was The Court of Miracles by Kester Grant. I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but basically this book was pitched as Les Miserables meets The Jungle Book meets Six of Crows, and I do think that's a pretty good description. The Court of Miracles follows, it's a retelling of Les Miserables, but following Nina, and I can't, Eponine, the character Eponine. I don't know Les Miserables as well. I listen to the music and I never watched any of the media, so I'm a terrible person to describe what this book is about, but it follows Eponine and basically her journeys instead of, you know, growing up in a poor home or being mistreated. Like, definitely, I do know the characters are a little bit different than they are in Les Mis, but she ends up entering this underground court called the Court of Miracles, which was a real place in France where, like, the underground kind of took place. Also, I think in The Hunchback of Notre Dame, there's a song called The Court of Miracles, and they sing about it. I don't think that's a great representation, but essentially, like, it is like a real thing. It's been referenced in a lot of works. So she enters the Thieves Guild and is one of, like, a very well-respected thief despite her age, but because her, like, growth is kind of stunted and she's a small person, she's easily able to kind of manipulate and climb and crawl into things that other people would not be able to do, which makes her very valuable. So this is book 1 of a series, and spoiler alert, I absolutely loved it. But for the sake of this, it is an arc. It's actually coming out, I believe it's June 4th, so it's very soon. By the time you're seeing this, I highly recommend pre-ordering it, supporting the authors right now in this time of national crisis, and just enjoying it. Because if you like Les Miserables and you like Six Crows, I do think you could like this book. It is a slow burn, and while I don't really think the Jungle Book has a huge part in it, I get where the comparison for the Jungle Book comes in, because all of the court systems, like all the guilds in the Miracle Court, have these, like, they refer to them as different animals. So you have, like, the cats, the rats, the ghosts, the tiger. Like, they're definitely, like, they're given these titles. And that's that. So those are the 3 arcs that I have to talk about. Next on the list, I'm going to talk about the 4 audiobooks that I've collected over the past few months. Now, I get my audiobooks off a website called Chirp. Chirp sends me daily emails, and they will have deals on audiobooks. So the only caveat to this is you have to download their app in order to listen to the audiobooks, but once you buy them, they're yours, you keep them. They have a range of various, like, you can buy them for full price. Well, usually they're always kind of discounted, but you can buy books up to full price. And it's very similar to Audible, but the nice thing is they always have deals. So the books that I'm going to mention are 4 of them. The first one is Nerve by Jeanne Ryan. If you guys know this book or have ever heard of it, It was a movie, and I actually bought the physical book, and I just haven't read it. So when I saw the nerve on the audiobook was only like $2, I'm like, yeah, I might as well just buy it because I finally read it. I cannot find this book anywhere on like Scribd or my library. It's probably on Audible, but I haven't tried that. So I just figured I might as well keep it forever. The second audiobook that I've obtained is The Girl of Fire and Thorns by Rae Carson. This is a very beloved YA series, and I don't really know anything of it, but I do think it has a little bit of that chosen one trope, and my one friend has implored me to read it many a time, and I have yet to do so. So again, I kind of took the same opportunity where I'm like, I know I own the first 2 books of the 3-book series. I do believe she's continuing the series, and I don't know if it's a sequel or a prequel series, but that is coming out this year. And if you watched my anticipated videos of 2020, anticipated reads video of 2020, then I did mention this series because if I had gotten to the 3 books by the time the 4th one came out, I was going to buy it, but so far I have not done that. But I bought this one, and that's really all I have to say because I don't know much about it, and that's usually how I like to go into my books, so I'm sorry, but you can look it up on your own time. The next book that I have as an audiobook is The Queen of the Tearling by Erika Johansen. Another book that is very beloved and young adult, I believe, but I do think it is very similar. I can't remember if it's young adult or adult. I know I've heard it placed in both categories. I think it's one of those like crossover books where people who are young adults enjoy it, people who are adults enjoy it, and no one ever knows where it actually goes in. But this one is a girl, I believe she is like sent off, and she's actually the queen of the Tearling, as the title implores, but she kind of has to work her way up to regain her title and reclaim her kingdom, I think. Again, my same friend who recommended me The Girl of Fire and Thorns recommended me this book, and I am so bad at following her recommendations. So this is another reason why I decided to grab the audiobook when it was on sale, because I might be able to give it a chance much faster than I would probably picking it up physically. The last audiobook that I've collected in the past couple months is The Near Witch by V.E. Schwab. This is an adult V.E. Schwab or Victoria Schwab, and it is her first released book. Now, this book, it was just re-released, so it's much easier to obtain a copy of this book nowadays. But it was not before, because it was her first published book and it didn't do so well, and they discontinued it. But with her popularity with her other series, they decided to reissue it, and since then I've seen a decent amount of people talking about it. This again was not on Scribd or any other service that I've used, so when it was a couple bucks on Chirp, I decided to grab it because again, I don't actually own a physical copy of this, but I would love to read the book. And the only thing I think I know about it is that it has something to do with a witch. And that's how we're gonna roll. Sorry guys, this book haul is a mess probably. You're like, why? Why are we watching this? You're not telling us anything. But hey, it's V.E. Schwab. I personally like V.E. Schwab a lot, so there we are. So for the last couple books, there is 2 other apps that I'm going to be talking about where I've obtained books. The first one is Glose, Glose. When I did my video that I referenced in the beginning, how to find or how to save money on finding books, Glose was not necessarily the app that I recommended, but instead I recommended finding publisher emails, because publishers will send free books sometimes through emails. You just have to subscribe to them or else you don't know. So the one thing that I recently started doing, and I don't know if it was just because of quarantine and this whole situation where publishers were sending out more, but I'm pretty sure I ended up obtaining like 6 different books from publishers that were absolutely free. Same thing with Chirp. The caveat is you have to read them on this Glose app, but man, it's awesome. 7 books. I have 7 books. I'm not going to go into details because I don't know anything about these books. I just kind of was like, oh, I'm gonna go for it and see. So I'm just gonna run through them. I'm not gonna put pictures up. If I might leave them down below, that might be easier for you guys. But otherwise, that's where I'm at. So the first one I have is Philippa Gregory's Tidelands. Philippa Gregory is known for her historical fiction. She wrote The Other Bowling Girl, which I have a copy of that one. So that is why I grabbed this book for free, because I recognized the author and I thought it might be something I'd be interested in. The second book is Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls by Lynn Weingarten. The reason I picked this book is because I have read another Lynn Weingarten book, and that is... I don't know, something Girls with Perfect Faces. It was a YA kind of murder mystery book. I think this is kind of in the same vein. I haven't heard much about it on BookTube or even on Instagram for that matter, but because I recognize the author, I again grabbed that book. I don't know anything about it, but the cover has these burned out matches, which is intriguing to me. The third book that I got through a publisher email was Sweet Ruin by Kresley Cole. This is more of a paranormal romance. Especially looking by the cover, it has kind of this intriguing look to it. But it says something, an immortal assassin is caught between desire and duty in this sizzling novel. So, paranormal romance. Has assassins and a foundling. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's that book. The next one I have, which I've actually seen this one a little bit more, but it's called The Lost Queen by Signe Pike. It's quoted as Outlander meets Camelot. I actually liked Outlander, which surprised me very much, and I love Camelot stories, so I'm totally okay with reading that, and I think that's kind of why. Also, the cover is pretty beautiful to look at, so I was intrigued by that as well. The next book that I got was When Dempo Met Rishi by Sandhya Menon. This one I actually knew, and I decided to grab it because, again, it was free. I've heard mixed reviews, but mostly positive, and it's about, I believe it's about an Indian teenager who is kind of tricked into meeting a potential arranged marriage partner, and, you know, she wants to kind of be her own teenager, and I don't know if there's a love triangle between, like, someone that she likes and the boy that her parents have set up for her or whatnot, but I decided I was going to give it a try. The next one I have is Leave No Trace by Mindy Mejia. This is a thriller. And it's something... Oh, this one actually sounded pretty good because it was somewhat... oh my gosh. There's a place in Minnesota with hundreds of miles of glacial lakes and untouched forest called the Boundary Waters. And this man disappears, and now it's like 10 years later, and there's something kind of scary and creepy, and the main character's mother somehow involved. I like thrillers, so again, tried that one. And then the last one was called Pretty Revenge by Emily Liebert. This is also a thriller. The name of the game is Revenge No Matter the Cost. This emotionally charged thriller reminiscent of The Wife Between Us and The Perfect Nanny. I did read The Wife Between Us and liked it. I haven't read The Perfect Nanny, but I am all for that, and it's thrillers. I mean, I don't think I want to know more because sometimes the synopses spoil it. So, those are all the books that I got from publisher emails. Like I said, I just recommend if you're interested, go sign up because you never know what you might get. But all of those books I just mentioned were 100% free. Again, the only catch was I have to read it through the Gloss app instead of like my Kindle app or something. So the next one then I also got for free through a publisher email, and this is Tor.com, and it was The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I've never read a Brandon Sanderson book, and this is actually the first one that I finally own. I was pretty excited when I saw that they were going to be handing this one out because, like I said, I've never been able to read any of his books yet. I've never tried. They're kind of intimidating. There's a lot of pages, and it's high fantasy, so sometimes I need to be in the right mindset. But I was very excited, so I do have that book. And then the second book that I also got from Tor is The Traitor Beru Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. It was free, guys. I don't know. I have no idea. I just know it's sci-fi, and that was the reason I decided to download that one because I don't read a lot of sci-fi. So the last books that I have are Kindle E-Books that I just kind of collected. I may put pictures up. I don't know. It's going to depend on how lazy I feel. But again, I'm going to try to leave all the books down in the description, so at least if this sucks and you're like, wow, you are the worst booktuber ever, I mean, at least I gave you something, right? So I'm going to start with, I guess we'll start with the books that I got for free through just Kindle deals. Kindle deals, you can get it either by going on Amazon and going through the Kindles and what's for free that time, or just through emails that they send. So the first one I have was The Amulet Thief by Luanne Bennett. It was a beautiful cover, and that's why I bought it. I have no idea what it is, but it was free. I also have Fae Hunter by Sarah K.O. Wilson. I do follow her on social media, though I will say her social media presence isn't as big, at least not on Instagram, versus her email. Like, she sends out a lot of emails, and it sounded good. It was about like a fae who I don't know if she's hunting the fae or if she's a fae getting hunted. It was one or the other, but I really just like her emails and kind of her personality that she sends, so that's why I got that one. I also got Air Awakens by Elise Kova. I love Elise Kova on Instagram. I followed her for a while, and I've just never read her books. But the Alchemist of Loom series is by her, as well as the Air Awakens series. And both of them I think are pretty popular, so I'm actually really excited. I do hope to get to it. There is part of me that I love the covers. They're so beautiful, and I would like a physical copy of them. But I figured at least getting the ebook for now would be easier. I also got The Confectioner's Guild by Claire Luana. And I believe this was like witchcraft. Like, she would bake spells into cakes to give people, and that just sounded so cool. And given that it was free, I was like, I'm gonna try that. That sounds great. I also have Queen's Shadow, a Star Wars novel by E.K. Johnson. It's about Padme's stand-in, I believe, and like how like she's kind of like the queen, like basically what is the Queen's Shadow, like she takes all of the brunt to kind of save the queen. That was free. I don't know why. It was just, I got an email and it was like, hey, we're free today. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy you. I'm just a little weary just because the last E.K. Johnson book I read was Ahsoka, and I was very disappointed in it. So I'm hoping that maybe this one is a little better, especially because it's not like a main character or like not a beloved character in the Star Wars franchise, if that makes sense. Just because, I mean, Padme is a pretty beloved character, but you don't really talk about her shadow as much. So the other book that I got for free, which was, again, I think it was a Tor ebook deal, it was like a download of the month, and that was Tooth and Claw by Joe Walton. I just know it's about dragons. I was a little hesitant. I wasn't going to download it, but again, I was like, well, if it's free, it's for me. So onto the ones, there was only a couple that I actually bought this month on Kindle, and they were, again, ebook sales that I figured I would get. The first one is The Bone Season, the entire trilogy by Samantha Shannon. I know this is highly popular. The Priory of the Orange Tree was also like a series, or it's a book by her as well, and that one was huge over the last year or two on Bookstagram, on YouTube, etc. And this series, the entire 3 books in one Kindle stop, was only like $3 a couple weeks ago. So someone who read the series and absolutely loved it recommended it to me, so I figured, again, I mean, I'm probably not going to buy the books anytime soon, but for $3, for three books, might as well. I also got Learn My Lesson by K.T. Robert. Now, sometime in one of my end of the month recaps, I did talk about this book by K.T. Robert called Desperate Measures. It was a Jafar and Jasmine love twist erotic novel. Learn My Lesson follows Megara, Hades, and Hercules in the same vein, where you're taking those characters and you're kind of plugging them into this like sexy real world, I guess, situation. They're not really like magical or anything, but Hades owns this club, which is like a kind of a pleasure den, and Meg is kind of contracted to work for him, very similar to like the Hercules retelling, and I think Hercules is trying to come and break her out of that, but there's this, I don't know if there's a love triangle in that, I don't know. It's interesting. I really liked the first book. It was just one of those mindless, fun reads, and I really wanted the second one. The second one was on sale for $8, so I had to grab it. And lastly on this list, I obtained Brightly Burning by Alexa Dunn. Alexa Dunn is an author tuber here on this platform, and I absolutely love her just videos in general. I think she sounds like she's a great person, and I was really interested in reading her books. Now, it's a light sci-fi book, and I believe it was pitched as, is it Jane Eyre in space? I believe that's what this book is. But Brightly, or it might be The Bachelor in Space. I don't remember. I know she has 2 books. Her first 2 books, The Stars We Steal is the second one, and then Brightly Burning was the first one. They both have like these romance plot heavy books set in space. So this one might be like The Bachelor and Jane Eyre in space, but it's light sci-fi, and that's kind of why I decided to go for it, because I don't read a lot of sci-fi, and I do think easing my way into it might be the way to go. And if this is a light sci-fi, it sounds like it would be for me. So I went ahead and grabbed it because it was on sale. I think it was only $1 or $2 for the entire month of May. So when you're seeing this video, it should still be on sale. If you guys are interested, go over to Amazon and grab your copy for only like $1 or $2. Because as of June, I think the deal is going to end. But I wanted to support her and also give her writing a try because I watch her so often, and I finally wanted to be able to support her. All right, there we go. I know I rambled a lot, and it was a different format just because like I don't have a lot of physical books to show you guys today. A lot of them were mostly ebooks and audiobooks, and that's interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed it though, because I personally love watching book hauls, and I definitely think hearing, at least for me, like hearing where people get books from is also interesting to me, whether it was a publisher sent or an ARC, or they bought them on this outlet or this site or whatever. I like that. So I hope that this was enjoyable and maybe enlightening. As I mentioned, I will try to leave all the books I mentioned today down below in some capacity, and I will also link the video that talks about how I save money on all the books I get for your viewing pleasure. But until then, I mean, what I will ask of you guys today is, out of all the books that I listed and talked about, is there any book that you have read and think I should bump up on my list? Because I will put these books off for probably quite some time. But if you would recommend one to me, I might take that and move it ahead of my list, especially if it's worthwhile. Otherwise, let me know some books that you guys are excited to get or that you've gotten over the past few months and are either read or just really excited to read. And until next time, I will see you then. Bye.